We are going to run a split focus to try to get you guys back together. With any luck, that is exactly what will transpire. So we're going to start with the basics of our usual start with, are there any questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners we need to round off in preparation of a small recap of where we last left everyone? Okay. Well, silence is usually a good thing. Means that we are reading out of the same book, if not the same page, chapter, and verse. And so before diving in, as always, it is a pleasure to dive into this hobby of ours, to escape this world in which we actually live and live through the troubling turmoil and chaotic maelstrom of our characters' lives in the dark. And from the bottom of my heart to the top of my mind, you have my thanks 1,000,001 times over. Thank you, and thank you. And without too much furthering afield, without too much adoing until we don't, I'd like to say that this is officially Steel Hearts, Rusted Souls, Season 6 premiere episode. The Wisdom of Bad Times and Worse. When we last left this burgeoning coterie of individuals who loosely have been made aware of each other and knew each other existed and have shared in a few small moments of ups, downs, and occasionally sideways, they survived the ending of a promised immortality. The Baron of Gary, Baron Stevens, the only Baron in recent memory to successfully take full control of a city from the grip of a long-reigning Camarilla prince, was no more. In their success in doing so, in their success in taking the reins both publicly and privately from the Camarilla, from the tower, they made enemy. They made enemies willing to risk someone else's life. They made enemies willing to pay the exorbitant costs and fees attributed with hiring an actual murderer. Though because of Baron Stevens' acclaimed position as Baron of Gary, the murderer is actually considered an assassin. And because of Baron Stevens' vaunted position, the daring required of the assassin was a 1 in a million chance of being successful. They assassinated a baron in the middle of a rant. They managed to escape. They managed to evade, elude, and lead astray a closing net of police officers, drawn to the area as if they had been called in advance and were already on the way. The assassin was not the only one gifted with a significant amount of luck. The assassin was not the only one to pull off a 1 in a million chance. Haley, Belial, and Anaya escaped with the Baron's corpse in their trunk. Nikki managed to flee the scene by taking the coldest, hardest road possible, diving into the frigid, freezing waters of Lake Michigan. And so we dive into this swirling miasma of untold potential as Anaya, Belial, and Haley ease to a stop on the grounds of a cemetery that is far too familiar. Its wide, expansive lawns filled with all of the ghosts of the past. Having crossed into Illinois, the area is unfamiliar to them. But following Belial's call and the address given from their sire, they find themselves at the Central Haven, the glowing example of Decibel Albu's power and esteem. They find themselves at the Thorn Ridge Cemetery, the Thorn Ridge Funeral Home. Its grounds immaculate, the Central Funeral Home, looking for all purposes of what it actually is, a castle in the middle of the suburb of Illinois. While Nikki crawls their way into their haven and abode, the Cathedral of Flesh. The night is ever as cold as always as Anaya and Belial remove the corpse of Baron Stevens. And as Nikki rummages through their things, attempting to find some semblance of warmth to stave off the very real touch of death that comes to all kindred willing to brave the near Arctic temperatures. Death has many upsides. The promise of immortality, the inability to be harmed by poisons and diseases, the permanence of one's youth or experience. One of the many downsides is that promise of immortality can be stolen, not only by the sun's kiss or the fire's caress, but also by the fingers of the cold, by Jack Frost's very touch can cause a kindred to cease to be. And so, beginning anti-alphabetical, Nikki, as you settle into the Cathedral of Flesh, what is the first few things that you might be about, considering death is very, very close, the real, true, final death?
Change clothes and eat and heal.
Changing clothes is easier done than said. The ability to get your dead fingers to move is one of consistent application of will and drive.
She's going to warm up first. Well, she's going to take time to warm up. Sorry.
Warming up. So she moves to her thermostat, turning it full blast, getting the heat going, trying to summon up some semblance of herself, trying to reinvigorate her dead limbs. There is a cost to doing business anywhere, and especially in Gary. When the cat's away, the mice will in fact play. It doesn't take long for word to have begun spreading. It is all over the few places where the kindred congregate and openly hide secrets on social media. It is all over their unofficial networks that the king is dead. But none have officially or unofficially taken the throne. Over the last time there was any level of turmoil equal to this, the city nearly tore itself apart. The last time there was a contention for who would potentially lead the city. There were murder in the streets, or more accurately, beneath the streets. There were kindred who disappeared, and on a night much like this, though she was far warmer, Nikki was the victim of an unexpected guest. leading the police right to the cathedral, leading the police right into the cathedral, driving and ratcheting the tensions up exponentially. Though I'm sure those thoughts are considerably farther from the top of Nikki's mind than she would like to admit. Her concentration on warming herself and considering the very real act of hunting down some living thing and draining its warmth into herself takes precedence. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll Nikki's unroused hunting roll? And while that roll is happening, Haley, the outside of all the lights that bombarded the G-Wagon as you all made your way across that road, as bumpy as it was, outrunning the train, you realize moments after it was already over and done, and fading back into the blissful annoyance of the effects of your drug of choice fading from your bearing as the night stretched longer by the second. You find yourself in the middle of a cemetery with Anaya and Belial removing the corpse from the trunk. It's as fitting a place as any, after all. Laying a kindred to rest in a cemetery as well is not that far beyond the pale. And, there's the fact that if rumors are to be believed and what you've seen previously is the truth of the matter, there'll be dust before anyone notices that they are there. The thing that stands most out is that you are not inebriated. You know that you are closer to a sober mind than you have been in several handful of dozens of hours. The last time you were of a sober mind, you watched as Vivi all but committed suicide by attempting to kill Alicia. A similar ploy, a party, and she dived through the party using supernatural strength and speed, and, well, unlike the murderer of Baron Stevens, she was not as successful. But you're standing here in the cemetery as they're removing her corpse from the trunk, and there's a full-fledged castle sitting here on the cemetery grounds. It makes no sense. The world is topsy-turvy. What is it that you're doing?
This isn't my apartment. I should live in that castle, though. Why is there a dead guy in the trunk? As she looks around, completely bewildered, in typical Haley fashion.
As Anaya, as you and Belial attempt to remove Baron Stevens' corpse from the trunk on the grounds of this wide, immaculate cemetery grounds, the castle standing there, and you hear Haley's response, Haley's retort. What's going through your mind? What are you doing?
Girl, you wasn't paying attention at all, were you? Remember Dead Baron, directions to this weird place? I guess it's a fucking funeral home, so it seemed perfect to bring her here. I mean, we don't know who we're supposed to be meeting. It's from his sire, I guess? I don't know how sires work. I didn't get to meet mine.
Haley will do that sighing eye roll where her whole head lolls back. She will say, OMG, not interesting. Why didn't you just leave it where you found it? It was fine there.
I mean, that seemed like a little disrespectful. Like, what if she was your mom or something? Would we have left her there?
My mom is not a vampire who was then assassinated by another vampire. It was none of my business.
Thing is, Baron kind of made it our business because we were all invited there, I guess. I don't really know how this vampire thing works. I thought Anox were supposed to be the free ones, the fun ones. I heard stuff about the Camarilla ones. They gotta follow these fucking rules and shit, and that doesn't sound like fun to me.
Oh, it is bloody terrible, I tell you. But there were lots of other kindred there, and none of them were responsible. How come we took it? Someone else could have taken it.
Do either of you have heightened senses?
Haley has heightened senses.
Okay. What's the total of her wits plus aspects?
6, believe it or not.
problem with being mostly inebriated most of the time is not that you don't see the world around you, but it has this thin film over it. So when the film fades away and you are more in a sober mind, or as close to it as you can ever tolerate becoming, nothing seems quite normal. Nothing seems quite right. And so the relatively tall for a Latino of his relative youth, blonde-haired, bluish green-eyed gentleman standing close enough at hand to merely need a few steps forward to join the conversation didn't really stand out. You weren't sure whether he was in the car with you, was he in the back, was he here to help them with the body, all of that. None of that really mattered because, well, you don't know the gentleman. I believe the reason why you are here is because of this one's sire, Lyle, correct?
This is not what it looks like.
Oh, I certainly hope that it is. Otherwise, I will have to make sure that you join. And he motions towards Baron Stevens' corpse in Anaya and Belial's hands.
She visibly tries to puzzle that out.
Well, nice to meet you or whatever. But yeah, so some shit went down and we figured we couldn't just leave her there, so we brought her with us, and then his sire sent us an address, and so we're here, yeah.
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to bring the body with you and follow me? I'll get you in to see Decibel and his sire. Right this way, please.
You live in this castle?
No, I would never, willingly. Right this way, please. And as you all grow closer towards the castle, taking those few steps from the parking space across the lawn, up the path and towards the building, you realize that it is in fact a castle. It's not a smaller version of such. No, it really is. Someone had the unmitigated vanity and gall to build a castle in the middle of the Midwestern suburbs. Ostentation has nothing on the fact that this funeral home, in all intents and purposes, is actually a full-fledged castle. It's only as you grow closer that you realize that those dark shapes along the roof are actually guards walking the parapets. It's only as you grow closer that you realize that those what you believed were stone stock-still statues are in fact humans who are trained within an inch of their existence to literally be as formal as that. Their brown and earth tone livery with small bits of gold, clearly denoting rank. You're sure you've seen it before somewhere. And a almost forgotten memory, something just at the edge of a party or at a bar or trailing down the streets or maybe following you. You're not sure. It's close enough to be on the tip of your mental tongue, but far enough away that it just eludes and escapes your ability to grasp it. Speaking of elude and escaping your ability to grasp it, at this hour of the evening, the width and breadth of most hierophants, most tattooees, most people who appreciate and understand the art for what it is, are either abed or drunk enough where them entering makes no sense. It is a series of dots, dashes, lines, and emoticons and emojis that really add up to a bunch of nothing. It is a pisser and a glaring bit of too little, too late to set up for a proper feeding attacking that group. However, Nikki is anything if persistent. Several calls, several more calls, several texts, reaching out via your hidden MySpace account, and you find an old client who's willing to spend a little time. You, of course, have to offer a free bit of ink to get him to travel from his little small shack, his little one-room trailer. But he does. His beard nearly as full and bushy as the belly that hides beneath it. His sleeves done all the way down to the knuckle of his left hand and all the way down to the fingers of his right. his biceps as wide as your thighs, and the smell of bourbon being so ingrained into who and what he is, you are sure that he mixes it with his shampoo, mixes it with his body wash, mixes it with his deodorant and body spray, because he is otherwise oozing and always is the scent of that sweet, fiery, cheap bourbon. Can't tell whether it is in fact Old Forester or Jim Beam, but it is one of those middle range, easily obtained bourbons that is predominantly sugar and caramel coloring. But lo and behold, he comes on. You hear his old truck rattling before he's even close enough to see out of the windows. You hear it sputtering, coughing, and gasping its last breath, as it always does when he turns it off. The knocking is a bit new, or at least a bit louder than usual. And the slamming of the door to make sure that it's actually closed, because the lock doesn't properly catch. In fact, one or more times you've seen him holding the door closed as he drives. His jeans, despite all of the scent that sticks to his skin, are always clean. His fingernails are always polished and trimmed. His balding pate always shaved within an inch of its life, so it always looks as if it is something he does right before he walks out of the house. And unlike most, he doesn't bother hiding it with a baseball cap or a bandana or a helmet. He comes as he is, his t-shirt a quarter of a size too small. And instead of knocking, he just tries the door and enters. Hey there, Sweet Pea! You around there? Don't tell me you had me come all this way for nothing.
It's all good, darling. I'm so glad you came on such short notice.
I wasn't doing nothing but hanging out with the wife and the boyfriend. They got into some stupid ass show on Hulu about vampires and witches in New Orleans, and they don't realize New Orleans ain't all those shows make it out to be. Last time I was down there, I didn't get nothing, not even any good fresh ink. There was a nice little spot on the, I think that's the east side of town. Picked up a couple of them crystals. They ain't really do much. I gained 5 pounds instead of losing the 10 that I wanted. Why is it so quiet and why is it so hot in here? The moment that he says, the moment that he asks, he immediately breaks out into sweat that starts soaking his t-shirt.
Is she warmed up yet?
Not at all. She walked 10 miles through the subarctic temperatures of Lake Michigan. She climbed through the muck and the mire. She managed to survive all of the invasive species of fish that attempted to nibble and peck and poke at her dead flesh. She crawled up the embankment. She literally had to free climb a near vertical surface to get up and out of Lake Michigan. Her fingernails are a mess. Her boots ruined. Her clothing equally ruined and freezing into sheets of ice even now. They're mostly puddles, you're sure, by this point. But that's the cold that creeps into the bones. That's the cold that seeps around your heart and stops it from beating. Luckily for her, hers doesn't beat at all.
Darling, I had to go out and I was a little underdressed. I'm rather close right now. Once the blood is flowing correctly, I'll turn down the heat.
Well, as long as you got some of that numbing cream, I didn't like that. And then he rolls up his sleeves. The tiger took a little bit more out of me than I expected, especially because it's in one of the easy areas. And what I'm planning today with your free ink this time around, and he raises his bicep, and just between the bicep and the interior of the deltoid, there is one small little piece of flesh. He's taken the precautions of already marking it off. He circled the area in Sharpie. I guess it's time for me to make it, as the kids say, Sweet Pea. I think it's time for me to make it official. You know, I never put none of the old gadabouts on my flesh, but the wife and the boyfriend have been real good these last couple of months. I guess I can go ahead and make sure they know that I care about them as much as I care about them. I'm thinking, could you put her initials swirling around his and intermingle with mine right here? I'm thinking some of that fancy French script that I saw you do a couple of times ago, but none of that snake or dragon stuff, just the initials swirling into mine right there. Something nice and neat that only they would really know was there anyway, you know?
Of course, I understand. You must give me a couple of moments. I will prepare myself. And then she's gonna try to dip her hands in some warm water to get the movement. Because as is, she can't do any tension. And once she does that, and she can move her hands, she's gonna get started and get the numbing cream. I did just forget the numbing cream. I want this to be an enjoyable experience for you.
Excellent. You young enough to be all up in that new stuff, that disc talk and face space, the new stuff, not the tried and true classics and such. I'm wondering, I caught wind. As you can tell, I was bored tonight. I don't like all that spooky hippity hoppy shows that they put on now. There was a lot of police activity reported on Waves, all up not far from the airport and the casino out that way. You know, of Eastern Star or Amistar or whatever that casino is, the one that rips everybody off. You hear anything about that?
Only what they showed on the news.
Oh, it's on the news?
Did you just say that?
No, it's on social media. I never put much credence in the news. You know, them peoples are always putting out their ideas and making people think that they have original thoughts and whatnot. It ain't never been my cup of tea. Especially being as all the news has been bought out and paid for and telling the same story to everybody, trying to convince them it's true. Never can trust them. Sweet Pea, you do something different with your hair. It looks a little bit more, well, I hate to say this. It looks a little dull. A little dim. You letting the roots grow out or something?
No, I assure you, darling, I'm a natural. No, I've been just rather busy with my teacher. But since you said something, I must endeavor to rectify that situation.
And unasked, he moves to one of the chairs and puts his feet up and settles in, does even a little side to side wiggle, and turns his arm, waiting for you to extend the brace so he can rest it against it.
She does.
Leans back and closes his eyes, waiting for you to begin massaging him with the massage cream, with the numbing cream, and getting going. And while everything is slowly returning to relative normalcy for Nikki, as you all enter the castle, you all take the long hallway into a wide open banquet space that clearly is fit for more bodies than you all have. Sitting at the middle table, the middle banquet area, set up on the raised stage area at the back of the room, is a gentleman that clearly has Slavic roots. His long brown hair and dark eyes hiding behind the well-trimmed goatee, and across from him is Belial's sire, who rises as you all enter. The care that briefly flits across her face is in stark contrast to how she began the evening. It seems as if she was actually worried. It takes a second for you all to realize that it wasn't just for Belial. It wasn't just for him. It was for you all. And she looks past you expectantly. Where is... Well, I'm glad you all arrived. This is our host, Decibel Albu, the Prince of Thornton Township. And when she says,
Hello.
he rises. Good evening.
Hello, I like your castle.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Thornton Township. You may place the Baron's body. And he motions to one of the tables nearer to you all. Please, sit. Might I get you all something to drink?
No, thank you. I'm good, she says as she scratches at her arm.
Anaya is kind of like starstruck a little bit, looking around at this huge place, and very carefully follows what was told, and puts the Baron carefully down. Having caught the fact that the other person seemed to be looking for somebody, so we kind of had a little bit of an issue getting away from all the hullabaloo that happened, and Mickey kind of got lost when I had to cut in front of a train to get away. So we were hoping to be able to check on them when we got here, but we needed to get somewhere safe first, if that's cool with y'all. I could definitely use a drink after all that. That was some crazy shit, yo.
Right, a bloody locomotive. This bird is crazy.
That I understand. And then he nods. Severino, if you would be so kind. The gentleman who led you all in simply nods. His face goes completely stony blank, and he disappears from the room. I thank you all for your marvelous time. We have simply been working on details. You all are here on the ground floor of something potentially great. I needed to verify that the Baron was in fact no longer amongst us before making overtures. How much do you both know of the tower?
Like, no offense, but I didn't even know we could shapeshift into fucking animals until tonight, so yeah.
Yeah, we can do all kinds of shit.
He looks towards Belial's sire. A small nod. And she moves to Belial, resting her hand against his forearm. I'll leave you two with Prince Albu. Me and Belial have several things we need to discuss, and we'll return shortly. And she leads him out of the room, leaving Anaya and Haley alone.
So I was in the tower, right? Well, I guess technically, can you leave? I don't think you can. I think it's. I think if you're there, you're there forever, right?
If you are lucky. Many have been banned. Many have been hunted from, and many have been preyed upon by the tower. The Camarilla is the governing body of those who have an interest in the future. A true interest in the future. I understand that things have not been easy for you and Gary as of late. The many assassination attempts, the missing kindred, so much so that even one of your greatest Towerites has decided to open up a franchise here in my domain. Normally, the choice is not yours to make. But as Gary is, in fact, something new. Baron Stevens did an admirable job in wresting order from the chaos, though it was very, very, very mismanaged. There was no forethought. There was no plan. None that I might see. Of course, I'm not there. However, Gary doesn't have to be the kicked, whipped dog that it was. Gary does not have to be unsafe for Kindred. I would like to change this. Would you all like to be safe, not victims of chaos?
I mean, that's kind of a known question, isn't it? Who doesn't want to be safe?
And he points towards Baron Stevens' body.
I don't think that they wanted to be unsafe for themselves. They might have been willing to ensure their safety by destroying the rest of us. I don't know. I don't really know them.
You don't know them, but you were willing to see them laid to rest with some measure of respect. That says a lot about you.
Does it say a good thing about me?
It says a lot about you. Your definition of good may vary from mine, but I see that as something worth engendering. We don't have to be the beast, even as we own and are occasionally owned by it.
She will decide to not share that she was ignorant of all this up until 4 minutes ago.
And Anaya, being the cool homegirl she is not going to rat her out. She's gonna nod and kind of go along with.
My question for you. Your Maula has all but spoken for you, but I believe in the freedom of choice. I believe in honor through service, freedom through unity. Your efforts will be rewarded. Your ethical standing and morality, a sign that I will take that Gary is not as lawless as it seems. A sign that there is hope for Gary. And my hope aside, the choice that I offer you. Join me in reshaping Gary. Join me in helping create a safe space for Kindred. One and all, no longer a lawless land where the hunters, the witch hunters, prowl the night along with lupines and wild, rambunctious kindred who care not who they hurt nor who they victimize.
What about wild, rambunctious kindred who do care who they hurt or victimize?
Well, there's a use for everyone. And because of being discerning, there is an opportunity that your efforts can be directed in the most beneficial way.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Yes, it is. The work would be mine, of course, and you, with your helping hands, your eyes, your ears, and you continuing through the night in service to the greater whole, you all would, of course, have a space for yourselves. You all would be given the opportunity to live as close to it as we come, with all due freedoms of liberty, you would be safe. You would be secure. You would no longer have to outrun trains. And you would have as much or as little of your particular, and he motions towards Haley's scratching fingers, as you need.
I don't have to deal with a certain prick in Chicago, do I?
Only if you choose to. What you do with your prick is your business, not mine.
She'll look over to Anaya. Sounds pretty good to me.
Anaya is, again, listening, but as soon as he said that thing, the whole innuendo of it, just, she pearl clutches, but at the same time, she's trying not to laugh. There's definitely sparkle in her eyes from doing so. She looks at him and then looks back at Haley. I mean, it's better, sounds better than, what we had going on before. Nobody telling us nothing. And then all of a sudden, crazy attack shit, Maybe this would be cool.
Good. I am very glad to hear it. First order of business is getting you all safe, fed, and back to Gary. Your eyes, your ears, your ability to disappear into the width and breadth of all of those wild rambunctious youth will be of good service. I need you all to plan a party. I need you to plan a gathering. I need you to work your magic in bringing Alicia and her Hakata advisor to you. I need you all to become the bells of the ball and the party monsters that I know you might be. I will foot the bill of the planning, but all of the rest is on you. Once you have planned and inserted yourself further into those few remaining anarchs, and your party is planned, we'll speak again. But for now, I'll let you rest and recoup. And he moves toward the Baron's body, lifting it into his arms and exiting with it. As he exits the ballroom, the banquet hall, the blonde Latino returns, 2 glasses filled with a dark, all too familiar scent. He places them on the table before you. Senoras, is there anything else I might help you with?
Anaya's kind of checking him out, actually. She's like trying to figure out if she can flirt with him or not. Because that's just how she is sometimes. She takes a glass from him, looks him up and down. That's a real, interesting name. Is it from, a specific culture or something?
Yes. Yes, it is. Blink. Blink.
Is the glass warm or cold?
Oh, it's very, very warm.
She will smell it.
There's a point in every Kendra's life in every Kendra's existence when the beast is just close enough to whisper all the bad things without any real intention of following through. This is such a moment for Haley. Sniffing the clearly freshly obtained blood in that glass is one such moment. You're jonesing but not necessarily for just blood. And that small hint of alcohol in that blood is as close to your DOC as you might get in the few moments that you have before you all are either back on the road or crashing the night on someone's sofa. And your B says, down it, drink it, chug it, ask for another. It'll work like a shot.
With a win in Rome, she will do it like a shot.
I can't believe you did that, says your beast inside your head as it bounces off the walls with the taste of brilliance that is. It's been a very long time since you've had fresh, clean, and simply just drunk blood. Like, this is the blood that you would get if you were to drain a room full of first-year college students at their first kegger, where instead of pacing themselves with beer and having the occasional shot, they chase their shots with the beer. This is that blood where you are sure that whoever this was that this came from was completely knackered. They were completely back and beyond. This is the blood that even inhaling it, if you were alive, you get a contact high from. This is the blood that would have to be not only triple filtered and fractionated, they'd have to scrub each red blood cell to get it free of the stench of alcohol that's coursing through it. And you took roughly 2 draughts worth to the head. It's been a very long time since you've almost been drunk, and this is where you are with that first belt, that first warming dose of just sheer unbridled foolish drunkenness.
She will let out a little giggle and wipe her mouth and let Anaya resume her attempts at flirting.
Well, no, after that last response, and he didn't seem to want to be talking too much, she's like, well, okay, yeah, thanks for the drinks and stuff. I mean, maybe I'll see you around and stuff.
Perhaps. Are you all staying the night, or do you need an escort somewhere safe?
We've got to plan a party for people that I know absolutely nothing about.
Sounds strangely appropriate.
You don't know these people, do you? Some, what do you say, Alicia?
You don't remember the other chick at the party that was like talking shit to the Baron and stuff? Like, she was trying to like square up with her, and then all of a sudden that crazy pig guy like attacked, and then all that shit went to craziness. But that was that other girl, the one with like all the weird mob looking guys.
Look, I know we've just met, but paying attention is hard. Also sometimes boring, until the warthog Mario brothered his way through the room. It was a pretty boring party overall.
Agreed, that was freaking crazy. Like, again, who knew? He was a big dude too, like, wow. And then she kind of looks back at Zephyr, yeah, I guess we are okay to go back ourselves and shit, and unless you know how to get around the cops and Gary.
Normally, as far as I remember, all it required was a significant bribe. I'm sure things have changed.
Well, don't worry, we'll be alright. I have a way with people.
I'm sure you do. I'll leave you all to it. I believe Belial and his sire will be remaining the evening.
She'll nod with a smile to him and then present her arm out to lock arms with Anaya and say, "Shall we be off to see the wizard?"
Yeah, it does. That's weird that he's staying the night, but so he doesn't like when I talk about how like she acts like a mom towards him. He doesn't want me to say that anymore, but it's weird because she keeps acting like a mom to him, and she's like almost forgotten that Sephiroth's still there, and she kind of like sips at her drink. She doesn't bolt it like Haley did, but kind of sips at it.
That's better than what I got from my sire.
And speaking of bolting, speaking of stealing, taking sustenance in one's own time and in one's own way, as he lays there in the chair, how is it that Nikki is intending to obtain what she needs?
She's gonna try to put him to sleep. I've known you've gotten many of these tattoos. You can get a small nap if you want to.
Perfectly honest, Sweet Pea, I was hoping we'd be able to talk. I told you, me and the wife and the boyfriend are getting closer than we have been in a very long time. And, this is the longest relationship that I've actually managed, and probably about the closest to being near perfection. The three of us together in the trailer. It's perfect. I just can't help but worry. I just can't help but wait and expect the other shoe to come flying out of the sky like a fucking meteor and crush me like an ant. You know what I mean? You get your idea of happiness and you're so very close to it, but sometimes you're just not. I don't feel like I am active enough in my relationship. It's like I'm retrieving and receiving all the benefits, but I ain't doing none of the work. And because I ain't doing none of the work, how do I know that it's actually mine? How do I know it could be better, I think, right? Things can always be better, right?
I do have a question though. You keep saying your wife and a boyfriend?
Yeah. I thought you already knew we were in a throuple. I talked to you the last time I was here when I got the tiger about how we were tying the knot and my boyfriend was the priest at the service. It was what, 6, 7?
Sure did, but it's still like I find it.
Don't tell me you're one of them uptights about it.
Oh, of course not. I judge no one, but still, I just find it fascinating every time you tell me.
Well, I ain't judging you. Mind you, remember, I'm not judging you. But a pretty woman like you, I ain't never seen no one make any leeway with you. And I know you probably keep your business and private as all get out, but not one touch, not one embrace, not one little nary look sideways at you. I think you may be a little bit closer to me than you think. Because, for years, I slept my way up and down the East Coast and all the way through the West Coast and back all the way around. I even hit the Panhandle several times. And yeah, you ain't never had nothing like a good old-fashioned Texas loving. They say everything is bigger in Texas. And, well, I can't say that everything is, but most things are, including all the trouble you get into. Had one married couple, I don't know, about 17 years ago, try to lock me in the basement, keep me from leaving town, wanted to make me their kept boy. Had a hell of a time trying to explain why they called the police for breaking and entering and everything that about it was bursting out. I was getting out of there if I couldn't do nothing at all. But anyway, I may be talking out of turn, And may not be preaching to the choir that I thought I was preaching towards, but you're always by yourself. You don't really get active, if you know what I mean, as far as I can tell. You know, they say you could tell when a woman has had her fill by the way that she walks, and you don't walk like a woman who's had her fill. You're all dry, a little bit reserved, like someone's grandma. Oh, dearie, that's not the way they did it in my day. And again, I ain't judging. I'm just saying, I think that you may be similar to where I was before I really opened up my mind and opened up my heart. I'm still, don't be mean.
No, that's not. No, it's just a woman that the kids tell.
Bullshit. They may not have in your mama's generation or your mama's mama generation, but hell, even in my generation, every woman kissed and told. They just told certain people.
Well, yes, if you know by now, I'm not American. I'm German, and while yes, that's some of us, yes, we are a little bit free.
I thought you said you were Austrian.
Same thing, basically.
Except for, the Austrians really didn't want any parts of those old double lightning bolts. At least not initially. Not most of them anyways.
Yes, this is true. But let's not talk about that dangerous, shall we?
No, I don't mind. I got a couple of friends that are really into it. At least I think they're friends. They used to be friends. Our lifestyles don't get together anymore. Since I stopped drinking, things have changed. Don't hang around with the same crowds as much as I used to.
That's a good thing.
I don't know about that. My life used to be more interesting. I believe that I gave more of myself during those days because I was, making up for it. Now I don't give nearly as much, which just brings us back to what I was talking about. I think that the other shoe is just gonna fall out of the sky at any minute and take this little bit of goodness from me. Now you say you don't kiss and tell, but you ain't gotta give me any details or nothing. But I figured that we know each other after all. And he holds up his right arm with all the work that you've done on that one, and then points to the tiger. I think we know each other well enough, or should know each other well enough, that we can share a little help every once in a while. And it's not a bad thing to ask for help. At least that's what I've been learning these last few years. So I need a little help. What should I do? I know that they love me. And I think that we have a healthy thing going on. But I worry that I'm not as active as I need to be. And I really don't know how to get active anymore.
Actually, it just sounds like you've matured. And that is a good thing. That's it happens when we grow older. But in the years I've known you, you are a sweet, darling man.
I bet you say that to all your customers, don't you?
No. Just a select few that you happen to be a part of. She's gonna lean over and she's gonna kiss him on the neck.
So very close. You kiss him on the neck, you realize that he does, in fact, run hot. You've always known that humans have always been hotter than you. Living entities everywhere are always warmer than you. The closest you can come to their warmth is when you rouse the blood, but you have not done so tonight. You are still quite frigid. So the difference between you, your lips, and his skin is the distance between a March morning and a preheated oven. Your lips are almost burned with how warm his skin is. And he jumps when your lips brush his neck, because they are in fact nearly frozen, are in fact colder than most things he's had touched them. They're not dry or cracked. There's a moistness to your lips, partially from your swim and partially from your state of being. And being this close, being kissably close, that difference is impossible to notice. Something flickers behind his eyes, some childhood fear, some recollection, and he frowns as he looks into your eyes. He frowns as he looks at your hair. He frowns. It's the look that comes as the living attempt to justify what they know and what they see. It's the look that the staked goat gives to the tiger prowling around just outside of the torchlight. It knows the monster is there, but it can't see it. It knows that rustling out there, quiet though it is the sign that the predator is here, but it can't see it. So it doesn't start bleeding. It doesn't start crying for help. It doesn't cry for its life. It doesn't do anything. Instead, it pricks its ears and strains its eyes. It scents the air and tries to verify where out there the monster is, hoping that the light of the torch is enough to protect it, hoping that the humans above in the canopy will help it. Fearing that they won't, it still hopes.
No problem, darling.
Yeah, you were right. You run cold. Maybe you want to turn that heat up a little bit more. Maybe I don't know. Throw on a sweater. 2.
That is a good idea, darling. I'll finish you up first and then I'll do such. You shouldn't take long. Oh, excuse me. It shouldn't take long. It's only initials, right?
It's 6. Well, technically 7 if you want to work in my middle initial. I never understood why only my family of the 3 of us gave me the middle initial. You know, the wife, she only has 2 initials, and the boyfriend only technically has 1. Both his first and his last name is, John. I always thought that was really, really funny. How often are you going to run against someone named John Johns? That's just ridiculous.
Sounds like a porno name.
That's funny. He said that he did work through college. Never asked him what he did exactly, but he did say, he worked through in the in adult entertainment field. I always thought that because of his voice, he was on them lines, but I'm not sure. I didn't pry, and he's clearly got some bad memories with it. Says that the last time he ran out on us before we got hot and heavy, he met this girl from Chicago, and they partied all night. Her and her friends, they had an orgy. She wasn't really involved, he says. Some purple-haired girl. There ain't nobody gonna get around in Gary with no purple hair, so I wasn't too worried about it. I thought maybe he just relapsed and maybe backslid a little bit. He used to do meth, and since he cleaned his life up and got on the straight and narrow, every once in a while he needs to relapse to realize how far he's come. He says that sometimes he wakes up at night in the middle of a high because of the dream he had. I never had those dreams, and I went cold turkey. I stopped drinking and doing weed, and I ain't never really had much else. But he says that every once in a while he gets those dreams where it's so real that he wakes up high from it. He's only had 3 of them, but each time I know that he's gonna go back and hang out with people from that environment.
but it's possible. But dreams are powerful things.
Not powerful enough. I've been dreaming of hitting that, that pick six and that lotto for years, and I still haven't yet.
Because that's your desire. That's why you dream it.
And speaking of desire and dreams, it is 44 after the hour. Let's be back here at 54 after the hour and pick up with Anaya and Haley as they leave the castle in the middle of the Chicago suburbs. All right, welcome back. Sorry about that. I forgot my last little sippy sip for the evening. It's not my last, but it's my last for right now. Everybody back?
Yep.
Yep.
Excellent. So when we stepped away, time is, as always, petering away. The night is drifting into the morning. And eventually it'll hit that Rubicon where it is 100% morning, even though the sun hasn't quite crested the horizon line. As Haley and Anaya make their way from Castle Albu, the Thornridge Cemetery and Funeral Home, and Nikki applies their charms against one of their adherents to the art. Where, if anywhere, is everyone dying for the day? That's the most glaring question, because there is a lot of information that they've received incidentally and directly this evening. There are plans afoot, and while the body already cold, because Baron Stevens was much like each and every last one of them already dead, what the next night and those that follow brings is, no matter how blithe, no matter how purposefully insulated in their thoughts, no matter how hermetic they attempt to be, the world has changed precipitously. The Mad Bomber is no longer a factor. There aren't as many wild, rambunctious parties where one can stuff and gorge themselves. The tremors from the falling of giants ripples across the land even now. And there are those waiting in the shadows, waiting in the wings to have their crack at being the eye of the storm. Anaya has not been told and has not had the opportunity of meeting Maxwell. But both Haley and Nikki knows that out there in the dark is an old monster who was willing to capture and hold Prince Modius and Juggler. They are aware that despite all of the ostentation of Prince Albu's domain, that there's something older out there who will not be pleased that its cat's paw is no longer a factor. So the question Where will they die for the night? And what, if anything, are they attempting to discuss along the way?
Haley would opt to go home. Guess home is where the junk is.
And I would offer her place if, but only if Haley wants. And then when Haley says they want to go home, then she doesn't mind dropping her off. She also wants to check on Nikki before she goes to bed. If Nikki is amenable to a sleepover, then she'd stay with her. If not, then she would try to make it home at the very last minute and shut herself away. As for conversation, I guess Anaya is going to be like, so, you know, that Albu guy was kind of cool and stuff, but that other guy was like real stuck up. Like, I don't know what was wrong with him. Like, I was just trying to tell him he was cute and shit, but like obviously he either has too many girls telling him he's cute or not enough girls telling him he's cute because he had his head up his ass or whatever. But I don't know, men are weird sometimes.
I wouldn't rot too much into it. Sometimes you meet an old wanker who's just way too in touch with his dead side.
I mean, I guess that could be it, but so party though, we get to plan a party that's so fucking cool. Like, I'm really good at planning things. I don't know how good you are at planning things, but you seem like the party type anyway, so you probably know like fun people to invite.
I try not to make plans, but I do like parties. I don't know if we should have some sort of theme or a cake, or I've never done a kindred party before. We should ask Nikki. Perhaps Nikki would know. Nikki's older.
Well, I guess it's a good thing I'm heading there first before I drop you off home, because then we can ask her questions and stuff.
She's got a tattoo parlor. I've been there once.
Yeah, I heard that like a lot of people talk about that place and say like it's like one of the cooler spots to hang out and stuff. So, you know, I had never been there, but like I'd like to go.
Well, let's go. Time permitting, of course.
Time, that hoary thief of always, in this particular instance, is not its cruel, cold self, constantly stealing those vital moments from us. In fact, it seems to be far more giving than it should. It's almost as if it's building slowly towards something, as if the spiders in one's mind are nesting and breaking their egg sacs and slowly eking forward into the present. As you all make that turn onto Washington to ease down the road towards the Cathedral of Flesh, you see Nikki escorting an old geezer, as Haley would say. He's clearly someone who could defend himself. He's clearly someone who you expect to be carousing. The thing that stands out most is that Nikki's helping him into a truck, which is probably older than either of you or all of you added together. And he looks inebriated. He looks snookered. He looks as if he's tied one on and is having one hell of a time loosening the knot. So as you all ease into the parking space there at the Cathedral of Flesh, what is it that you all are discussing? I'm curious.
I don't think I even want to know what that's about.
I mean, girl, everybody got their kinks. Like, I'm not judging or nothing. Maybe she do like him older. She like the sugar daddy.
Nothing wrong with that. Shall we then?
And I parks carefully not to hit the truck or the guy or Nikki. And then kind of pops out. So, what's poppin', sis?
Hello, Nikki. We've got a job.
Nikki.
Yeah, my bad. I was talking. I just forgot I was muted. Sure, she said, "Oh, nothing, darling. It's just catching up with an old friend." And when Haley said that we had a job, she says, "Over and above, what is the job?"
Some guy who lives in a Peking castle wants us to plant a party for someone. Or plant a party and invite someone. Was he specific or am I just confused?
Okay, so I don't know if you've heard of this Albu guy, but he has a legit fucking castle and shit. And he's got like servants and things. It's the weirdest fucking thing, but anyway, he was like, I want you to invite that Alicia chick and all her friends and just get them there. He didn't say why, and he didn't say we had to have like a theme or nothing, but he was like, yeah, just throw a fucking party and he'll pay for it. And that's it. We just gotta plan it. So that sounds mad cool, right?
On the surface, yes, but I feel there's more to that than he's letting on. Particularly this Pinterest.
So, like, what do we like to do? What sort of party should we have? I imagine not like pinatas.
So in a location that belongs to none of us. Or unless we've been told otherwise.
Oh, he didn't. Did he have any specifics? I don't remember now. It was so long ago.
No, I pretty much said we were in charge of planning it and getting everybody there, and then like that's it. That's all we had to do. But that he would pay for it. So like if we want to rent a big ass venue, he would probably pay for it. That's so cool, right?
Probably not the VFW, I'm guessing.
I would also suggest that it be in a secluded place.
Maybe we could buy a boat. I went to a party on a boat. It didn't end well. In fact, all the parties I've been to in Gary tend to not end well.
Such as it is.
Well, that's why we are throwing the party, so we can change that, girl. Seriously, like, it's because it wasn't your party. It's gonna be our party, so that's gonna be better, right?
Right, someone should write that down so I don't forget that on the list that the party should end well.
I admire your optimism, Haley, but this just sounds suspicious, and I'll leave it at that.
What if we wrote no fighting on the invitation?
Considering that the kindred that is hosting this it is bankrolling this party is quite old, I don't think we would have much to say about that. But you can try if you want to.
You know it's coming up. Like, okay, so out of character, is this still before Mardi Gras
Yes.
in game? That's perfect. So Anaya's like, girl, you know what's coming up? Fucking Mardi Gras. We should have a Mardi Gras masquerade party and shit.
We can dance if we want to. We can leave our troubles behind. And I don't know the rest of the words.
Would be that is ideally could hide our identities.
Well, that's fucking rude, says Tyven as he steps around the truck, still dressed to the nines, though it's decidedly ambiguous whether it's a masculine outfit or a feminine outfit. His hair slicked back and tied into a nice, neat, high queue makes it seem far more feminine, though the wide pants leg can be either or neither. If he stands with both of his legs together, both of his feet together, it does in fact look like a very long dress, but they are in fact pants. The shirt looks more of a blouse. And then there's no clearly defined left or right buttoning on it, but based on material and weight beneath the jacket that he's wearing, it does have a ambiguous look to it. And I went through all of the trouble to make sure that I had a great entrance. Being ignored is not very kind. The least you can do is remark as to how I managed to escape soundly and securely from such a problematic situation.
Right, because they didn't write no fighting on the invitations.
No, they did not. So, you all know that you owe me a favor, and I kept my mouth shut about what you and Vivi got up to with Alicia. And with everything being everything and the night petering away, I figured that you all would be so kind as to at least offer me a place to sleep for the day. I know it's beneath me, but I know you all will try your best to be good host, right?
And then kind of puts her hands on her hips, looks at her. Then, first of all, homie, you was like ear hustling, wasn't fit nobody talking to you. I think I remember you from that party, but I also remember seeing a lot of the back of you when shit went down. So we wasn't worried about how you got out.
Girl, your tab is still outstanding, and I don't want to have to put you on Broad Street about your particular taste in donors.
My particular taste in that.
Yeah.
Anyway, girl.
You know it is not easy finding individuals that are so fit and at a discount, no less.
Nikki, honey, it's up to you whether you let this person stay or not. I have no skin in the game. I mean, I can only say that they did show up at the party tonight, and I guess they do have some sort of importance, run shit somewheres, but it's not here directly. Anywho.
Oh, you're talking about what I run? Oh. Everybody's always barking up the wrong tree. But anyway, we don't have to be enemies. We don't have to be frenemies. I don't have to break out the claws or anything. But considering all the police that I know are in the area and will probably be doing a sweep, I think maybe we should all get inside. It's only as he says that and he looks in the truck that he realizes that you all aren't just loitering. Oh my God, who's Santa cosplayer is this?
He's a customer.
I'm sure he is. Timon snaps his fingers in front of your donor, who's mostly dozing, but because of his hard life, he dozes more often than not with his eyes open. It is the eeriest of things. He's all but snoring, but his eyes are at half mast, but still open enough to see the light and what happens out there in the world outside of his dreaming. Oh my God, what did you do? Did you drug him?
I think he's just old. He's got to be up in 2 hours for breakfast.
He does know that they closed the Denny's 10 years ago, right?
I mean, if anyone knew, I would imagine it was him.
Anaya has already walked away and headed inside.
Nikki rolls her eyes. Follow me.
I'm so appreciative. I went by the little strip club, but it's ladies' night. So no real talent there. And Belial was nowhere to be seen, so I couldn't importune his kindness.
He's over at the castle.
The castle? Where is that?
You know, the castle. It's right by the castle. How many castles do you think there are here, love?
None in Gary. None of the McMansions and well-to-do people over on the coast have anything that even remotely looks like a castle. Although that house there on Oak is close, but it's not a castle, so I don't know what you mean.
I don't know where we were. It was a bloody castle.
So there's another
Really?
stupid club that is not up to snuff operating in my city. We'll have to fix that.
Wait, is your city now? I'm so bloody confused.
Well, it has to be someone.
There's so many barons and so many princes. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
You know, I'd love to see who would win in a fight against him versus Prince Albu. For real, though. That would be like the major scrap. Like, we could, like, pay-per-view that shit.
Prince Albu? Oh, really? That is news. After all, you know, last I checked, he was a baron, sort of, kinda. Interesting. So you all went to hang out with Prince Albu? Is that how you all made it away?
I don't know. I ran off and then they picked me up. I was going to get an Uber, but then this was cheaper.
I'm sure. It's not like, you know, they don't charge $20 just to go from 5th Avenue to 6th. Money up front, of course. Which reminds me, I'm thinking that we should probably have a transportation service, because there are a lot of us, you, that don't have vehicles. And I don't know about you, but even though we have full opportunity to use whatever we need to get around, having a service that caters to us should be important, don't you think? For us, by us.
I've got a car. What are you talking about?
So then why were you calling for an Uber?
Because I got picked up to go to the party and everyone scattered. It's a good thing that I got driven to the party, or else my bloody car would still be there.
Yes, that's definitely a problem. I understand that the police will be collecting and searching tags.
See, something else I don't have to worry about getting a ride to the party.
Speaking of rides, Nikki, I'm so sorry, girl. I didn't know you couldn't keep up with me like that, but look, I used to be a professional driver, so I saw a chance and I took it. What happened to your car?
I had to leave it.
See this?
Wait a minute. So you're saying that your car is still there?
Unfortunately.
Oh. Well, I thank you for the hospitality. I think that I'll look up a friend that doesn't stay too far. My suggestion, knowing the approximate speed at which GPD works, that you all probably shouldn't remain either.
We could call it Cuba.
That is an option. Thank you for your time, ladies, and your hospitality. I'll be leaving now.
Toodles.
Maya just waves by.
As he leaves, back the way that you all entered into the cathedral, the reality of his statements, the reality of the fact that Nikki's car is at a crime scene. Nikki's car stands out. It would probably be one of the first 5 vehicles whose tags were run. And if that's the case, considering the time, there should be a knock upon the door fairly shortly. There should be questions being asked fairly shortly.
I was going to point out one thing so that we don't go down the wrong direction with that. Nikki did not leave their car in the parking lot at the club where all that happened. They were in their car following Anaya, and then when the whole train thing happened, they stashed their car away from the crime scene, but they don't have their car, so it's not like it wasn't in the parking lot. They brought it with them, but then they left it somewhere else that wasn't the crime scene.
They left their car alongside a pile of steel refuge at the crime scene. They circled back around from the train tracks and drove towards a pile of steel, then hopped into Lake Michigan. While their car is not in the parking lot, it is suspiciously stashed near a pile of discarded odds and ends from the refinery in the area.
Looking at Nikki, she's like, did you really leave your car there? Like, why would you take it back to the parking lot? You're right, though. The cops are gonna come knocking. We should probably not be here. We can go to my house.
I appreciate your hospitality. I must repay it in kind someday.
Would you all be so kind as to roll your charisma and stealth, please? It will be contested. as you all are leaving the Cathedral of Flesh. Funny thing about the Cathedral of Flesh, just to drive home how definitively different it is. The cathedral is actually in the former City Methodist Church there on Washington. It literally is a church building. The alley behind it is so expansive that 2 vehicles can pass without touching each other. Washington being a just off the beaten path main street there's an ease of travel getting to and from the cathedral. Most of the cool kids park in the back and enter through the rear entrances there. But it is a landmark in everything but actual official status. Everyone knows that at 6th and Washington, if you look northeast, the Cathedral of Flesh stands as a testament to Gary's thriving, quotation marks, industry, as the city tries to find every opportunity to bring in income to its being. So there's often police officers who patrol the area, ticketing vehicles, booting vehicles, because they know the people that visit the cathedral will pay or will have warrants. So when they go, they pay their tickets. That's more income for the city. If they don't have warrants and they aren't arrested, there's still income for the city generated. One of the give and takes of a city on the outs. Every opportunity to bring in funds, personal and public, is taken with all due haste. Oftentimes the clients, the regulars, complain. The clients such as Hall, who is still dozing in his truck out front, they don't mind. They understand. Denizens of the night don't understand the excess. They understand it, but they don't like it any more than the average citizen. So as you all leave to head to the G-Wagon, the fact that they didn't come with lights and sound is annoying. You all may have entered back into the cathedral, and technically could, because they didn't notice Nikki as she begins locking the door. They didn't notice Anaya as she eases it behind the wheel of the G-Wagon. They did notice the pale, bright-haired Haley as she stands there, as she contemplates getting into the car. Her camera, her phone screen lights up, causing her pale face to just seem to materialize out of the dark as they're easing into a parking slip. There are 2 officers in the car. They're plainclothes, which lets you know that the investigation is moving apace of all of the activity. And as they look towards Haley and Anaya and Nikki, see them, and Haley looking at her phone and realizing that it's another notification about rest in power, Queen. What is it that everyone is doing?
Haley, being oblivious as usual, will slide into the car and say, "All right, well, I've got to go home then, if you don't mind."
Alright, so they've definitely spotted us, or they spotted just one of us?
They spotted Haley, who just got into the G-Wagon.
Haley, don't look now, but them cops is like staring at you. Do you know that?
Lots of guys stare at me. It's normal. You get used to it, sort of. I mean, it's kind of creepy.
Anaya looks towards Nikki like, what do we do? Because, like, I'm just ready to pull out, but I don't want to have no car chase.
Nikki, are you muted again?
No. She just sticks back and slinks back into the seat once she gets in. I do not feel like dealing with the police right now.
Alright, do you want me to do? I mean, they're just sitting there, right? I mean,
They're exiting the car now. The driver staying near the vehicle, his door open. The detective riding shotgun closes the door, unzips their windbreaker, and begins moving towards the G-Wagon.
we could wait for them to come to the car and I could talk to them.
Sure, I guess. And she had already kind of started the car before we noticed all this. She's just gonna roll down Haley's window a little bit so that she can hear the cop and the cop can talk to her if that's what they want to do. But she's going to keep aware for when she can back out and leave.
Haley will reach over and grab the rearview mirror and turn it towards herself and then check her makeup real quick.
Good evening, ladies. I'm Detective Thompson. That is my partner, Police Commissioner Stevens.
Like your life partner.
Technically my boss. And then Detective Thompson looks into the vehicle more directly. Normally, with uniformed officers, they do everything they can to keep the persons in the vehicle discombobulated. Bright lights, loud and soft, changing tactics. But Detective Thompson simply smiles. She doffs an imaginary cap with two fingers along the side of her brow. And she pauses, looking at Nikki. Miss Sin, do you have a few moments?
Of course.
Excellent. And she takes a half step back from the door to give Nikki room to step out. Now, the thing about the driver of the car, he's clearly older. Looks in his mid to late 50s at the youngest. It's clear that he's wide of body. You're not sure whether it's fat or muscle. There's a slew of scars along the left side of his face. And as you all look over at Police Commissioner Stevens, the one thing that stands out most importantly is that you've seen that jawline. You've seen that nose line up close and personal just this evening, though softer angles, more pronounced cheekbones. But those eyes and that carriage you all easily recognize. As Nikki steps out, Detective Thompson, would you like to step over to the car with me? I left my cigarettes over there. So, is there anything you'd like to tell me before I begin asking questions?
No.
Okay. Step over by the car for me, please.
She does.
The moment you step over by the car, the driver closes his door and walks around the front of the car, flanking Detective Thompson, who reaches in and grabs her pack of Black Death cigarettes. She lights up. The moment that she lights up, he begins speaking. Sorry about the lateness of the hour, Miss Sin, but I'm sure that this is more in your wheelhouse, isn't it?
Yes, this is the time of night my customers are usually the most active.
Yes. And
Haley will.
go on.
Oh, sorry. Haley will get out of the car at this point, kind of saunter drunkenly that way.
Normally, you'd have yelling and screaming and pushing and shoving and heightening of tensions. Neither Detective Thompson nor Commissioner Stevens respond in the usual police manner of establishing a perimeter, of establishing a cordon. It's almost as if it's a foregone conclusion that you all would be joining them. Instead of responding with those typical responses, Commissioner Stevens looks at you measuringly, then looks back at Nikki. We don't want to take too much of your time. We know no one has unlimited time available to them. Your vehicle was found at the site near enough to a reported shooting. Would you happen to know how it got there?
Please have one of your cigarettes.
Detective Thompson smirks. Yeah, of course. You don't look like the smoking type. But you know. And she thumps the pack, causing one to rise up and out. Soft packs aren't usually the thing these days. Most people opt for the hard pack, the cardboard boxes that they come in. But this soft pack is a throwback to an earlier time. And she offers you the cigarette butt first.
She will take it, put it in her lips.
Instead of striking her lighter, she reaches into her pocket and hands you the electric one.
Even Haley will find that odd, so she will light it up and hand it back. Watch them suspiciously.
She slips the electronic lighter back into her pocket. Commissioner Stevens looks towards the G-Wagon once, then back. Are you unsure, Miss Sin?
While all this is going on, Anaya is going to be racking her brain as to how she knows that face, or like why is it familiar to her.
Intelligence Insight. DC 3. Miss Sin, is there anything you'd like to share with us? We don't want to have to escalate things. We know how beastly things can get. So, Miss Sin, for our sake, for the investigation, is there anything you would like to share with us?
You didn't go and shoot someone, did you, Nikki?
Is there something you're trying to say, Commissioner? Because I find it awfully strange that a police commissioner is on a routine patrol.
There's nothing routine about where your car was found, Miss Sin.
Yes, to the commotion I got around off the road. All I know is there was a series of cars coming by very fast. Startled me. It made me lose my way by steering. At the same time, there was a train coming. I almost hit it. I had to swerve to keep myself from being killed.
So do you often party at the harbor? Is there a reason why you were on private property with your vehicle?
Like I said, laying my head. I wasn't going to cause any commotions or problems, so last time I checked, it was I was, like as I said, I was laying my head, so whatever commotion was going on, I knew nothing of it.
And that's your final answer.
Well, you did not answer my question.
I did. You asked, was I attempting to say something? I very pointedly said exactly what I was asking and why. I'm sure that you're accustomed to individuals playing word games and not meaning what they say. I know your kind. I don't play those games.
And what is my kind?
He waves his hand from your head to your feet and back. If you don't know your kind, that explains why you can't answer a simple question. So I'll ask you again. Is there anything you would like to tell me to ameliorate my concerns for a multi-$1,000 vehicle at the scene of a clear crime?
From the commotions and the screams I heard someone was killed.
You heard someone was killed. I see. Could you point us in the direction of who that might be before whoever it is that did whatever they did gets away with it?
She texts Haley real quick.
No, I cannot.
And what about you, Miss?
Hold on, I've got a text.
Hey, is it just me or don't that guy look a lot like Baron Stevens? You know, the chick that died today? He looks a lot like her. Why is that?
Alright, sorry. Don't I know you from somewhere?
You should. I've been the commissioner here in Gary for probably longer than you've actually been alive.
Oh, well, I don't watch television, so that's not it.
Would you happen to have family?
We all have someone who counts on us. So,
Or I mean, family that you will consider kindred spirits to you.
I consider every living thing in Gary part of my family. Your vehicle has been impounded. It will not be going anywhere until the completion of our investigations.
Why?
Why?
I have nothing to do with it.
Yes. You may not have. none of you may have had anything to do with whatever took place there. But there are missing persons. There are the reports of gunfire. There's the fact you were trespassing on private property. There should all, in fact, be an investigation of their own. So, perhaps the absence of your vehicle might jog your memory, might help you to help us close this investigation in a timely fashion.
Also, I do not know who did it. I am telling you the truth of this.
It's quite some temper you've got there, little lady. Perhaps you should look into some counseling. I'm going to let you know, and thank you all for your time. Anything you have that could help with our investigation. And he draws out his card. He literally reaches into the top pocket inside. And in the doing, you all very much see the crucifix that he's wearing. It's attached to the rosary around his neck. And suddenly it makes sense why the flower in his lapel is there. How many people actually understand the medicinal effects of wild roses? None of the store-bought dead varieties that you see in gas stations and Jewels and Oscos. No, this is clearly a hand-cut wild rose. And he extends his card towards you, at which point you see the scars along his knuckles and at his wrists. If you think of anything that might help us, feel free to call. I keep nocturnal hours. I'm sure that we both will be able to cross each other's path sooner rather than later. And he hands a card to Haley. If you all should think of anything, do let us know. And as he moves around the front of the car, Thompson, excuse me, ladies, I'm sorry about that. And she reaches towards the door and opens it, waiting for you all to step a little bit further away before sliding in. And then he backs out and pulls off into the night. There's no way in any semblance of normalcy does that make sense. There's no way in any semblance of appropriate responses does that make sense. Kindred, even in their lightest touch, can cause a man's soul to quake in their boot with a flaring of temper. Kindred, as close as you all were to them, triggered that lizard brain that has people making excuses for the deathly pallor. Being as close as you were and accepting the cigarette from the pack, there's no way that they didn't see exactly how unalive you all are. And they operated as if it was just another Tuesday.
I don't know what to do with this thing, she says, handing the card towards Nikki.
She take.
Anaya says he looks like the veteran, the dead one.
Wasn't he a relative?
Perhaps, but he's a right vicar, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
We should probably be on our way. I don't like being sober.
No, it tastes like failure somehow.
I think I want to be with Mike Beachwood.
Nikki was there the last time the Baron actually had revealed themselves as the powerhouse behind most of the movements that had been happening in and around Gary. Nikki was there, and now the Baron is gone. Baron's network is up for grabs. Whatever they had, whatever leverage they had in controlling the vertical and horizontal, the image that the city was laboring under is up for grabs. And while nothing is definitive over the course of one night, there is most assuredly fallout from that. There is will be most assuredly an increase in the chaos until some order is reestablished. The longer it takes for that order to be established, the more risk there are for operating with any semblance of being dead in Yeri. It's an impossibility. The most recent time before the meritocracy was established was hell. Nikki lost her cathedral. Haley partied across the city and into Walkerton. Anaya lost her sire. There is a promise of pain. There's a promise of risk. And there's a promise that until order, whatever that order might be, is established, you all are in for a very, very wild time. So as the night peters away second by second, is there any conversation? Is there any prognostication? Is there anything else you all would like to share with one another before the sun forces you all to die for the day?
Anaya is still willing to have Nikki stay with them if they want to, but if they want to stay at the cathedral, she will say, hey, drive with me while I drop Haley off at their house because we need to talk about this party. We have to get on that quick. We need to get the word out. We need to figure out where we're throwing it and get all that information to that Prince guy so that we can get this popping because parties need to happen.
Right, all of that, what she said.
So I guess the card trip would be them hammering out details of where, how quickly they can throw this together. Anaya has specialties in both finance and technology, i.e. phones, so however we can spin that into her getting this together or pulling this together quick, we're gonna go that way.
Haley has a little etiquette and has quite a bit of experience with parties, both before and after death, and Elysiums with her sire and whatnot, so she will have some input.
So even knowing that no plan survives contact with the enemy, you all begin doing your absolute best to pre-plan the party, to get all of the right people in the right places so that it is an enjoyable, believable affair. And most of that pre-planning goes off without a hitch. The venue is still up in the air. How are you going to make sure that everyone knows is another thing that pops up, and how you all are going to disseminate the information. And it's funny, with the chaos of tomorrow hanging over their heads, there is some solace taken in their skills and experiences being of use. Managing to sufficiently pre-plan a thing, managing to reach out via text, managing to begin the ball rolling. Even as the walls close in, even as the threat that tomorrow carries, that everything will change and be different, looms over them. The kindred pre-plan with every ounce of skill and experience they have available to them. And as night crosses the Rubicon into morning, the sun is still just far enough away to to be pressing, yet not an emergency, we draw a close to the incidents and accidents of Gary. Kindred dying for the day, with thoughts of sugar plums and worse in their head. Good night, everybody. See you guys next time.
Good night, all.